This morning we have a very special guest with us, my friend Matthias from Help. And Matthias, why don't we start with why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself and your business?
Oh, okay. Well,
and thanks for coming in, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a bit cold outside, and we're both not awake yet.
Right, but we'll be okay.
But we'll try. We'll try to be entertaining this morning.
Not quite enough caffeine,
no,
but we're close.
We both have our cups in hand. So
yes, and we can send Caleb out for more potentially, if needed.
I like fancy coffee.
Yeah, me too. Okay, right on.
All right. A little bit about myself. Let's see. I'm kind of slowly moving across the country. I was born in Connecticut. And then about the age of 4, moved to Ohio, so westward travel.
Right.
And grew up in Ohio, and most of my formative years. And then went north to, that was in central Ohio. Then went north to school, got an art degree at the Cleveland Institute of Art. And my wife at the time, who I met in Central Ohio, came up and she went to Kent State for her master's degree. And so I got a art degree in graphic design and photography, which kind of leads into why I've been on Apple's most of my life. Mm-hmm. And worked as a graphic designer in Cleveland for a number of years before I was like, okay, not really my strong suit. I mean, I like graphic design, but it wasn't my calling.
Were you working for a company or an advertising agency? What was the?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I worked for actually a nonprofit art organization first.
Okay.
Kind of as a work study in college, and helped set up shows and did their graphic design and photography for their shows, mm-hmm. which was really cool. Got to meet a lot of cool artists.
It is cool.
In the metropolitan area there in Cleveland. And then I went and worked for a wall covering company. They did like murals and
mm-hmm.
and they did a lot of graphics for BP. Let's see, I'm trying to think of what a lot of home furnishing kind of interesting mural type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
And then my in-laws moved. Well, they always knew they wanted to retire in Wisconsin. Sharon and Jerome Butera, mm-hmm. and they were from Chicago, where my wife's from, and they always knew they wanted to retire to Wisconsin, and made many trips to Wisconsin for vacations until they found Viroqua, and as soon as they saw Viroqua, they knew they wanted to retire here.
Which is so cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then they moved here, we visited, and then we wound up here because we loved it too.
Yeah.
So that's a little
fantastic.
bit of my background.
And then once you moved here, let's talk about your journey from person who's working for other people, who's doing graphic design and working with all these fabulous artists, to becoming an entrepreneur and running a small business.
Okay.
How did you get there?
Well, backing up a little bit, while I was in Cleveland, I did start working for Apple too, mm-hmm. As a technician, as a trainer in one of the Apple retail stores in Cleveland. So that was after my graphic design stint. Mm-hmm. Worked for them for about 6 years in those capacities. And then when we moved here, following Ann's parents on their journey, I worked from home as an Apple Care representative. Mm-hmm. Apple pipes calls to your house, and you take calls. And I was a senior advisor for Apple, and which is really cool. And I really enjoyed the job, and but knew I wanted to have more of that face-to-face mm-hmm. Interactions with people. It was nice talking to people and doing just the voice thing over the phone, and I knew I wanted more than just talking to people on the phone. Mm-hmm. And so I started out of my house as a kind of taking all those parts, training, being a technician, doing the over the phone help, and started doing on my house to see if there was enough enough business here in town, because it's not a big metro. I mean, it's not a big city, so
Sure.
I didn't know what I would find.
Yep. And that's the smart way to do it. Test for volume and interest.
See if there was enough. If I could make enough money at trying this on my own.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, people just came out of the woodwork. I started by putting my like an ad on the banners list, and got a lot of feedback and response from that.
Yep. And for people that don't know, the banners list is an email list serve in the Viroqua area that connects people to services and events and so forth.
Right. I mean, it was great. It started by David Banner, who is a wonderful person. Him and Diane are great. And Sherry White took that over then, and she's running it now, and she's doing a great job as well. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, for anybody who's trying to start a business in this area, it's a great way of getting your name out there. Mm-hmm. So that was the initial way I got, because I'm kind of an introverted person, and it's hard for me to, sing and dance and walk around town with a what are those boards?
The sandwich board.
Sandwich boards, yeah. I don't do that. So it was a great way of getting my name out there. Great response from it, and I'm not sure where you found my name, but you're one of the first people that reached out to me at the chamber.
Yeah.
So we started our relationship at that point.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, after about a year doing it from my home, and talking to you, because you said you really thought I should have a place downtown to do my craft, I guess. Mm-hmm. And yeah, after a year in the house, in November of 2017, during that year's pop-up shop program, I opened the shop, and so far so good.
Yep, and the rest is history.
That's right. Yeah, it's been great. Amazing people. I always think about how lucky we are with all the people and that we come in contact with in town, and their great support. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would have been able to do this in any other small town. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's nothing like having an environment that's so friendly to entrepreneurs, and a public that is so interested in making sure to support local businesses.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's no way I would have been able to do it otherwise.
Right. Exactly. So what is now that you've graduated from the pop-up program, you have a successful business, what's your day-to-day schedule like for someone that's looking to start a business? How much control do you have over your schedule, or what does that look like for you now?
It's part of the fun part about having a business is being able to control your environment, I think.
Right.
I got a lot of, I took a lot from Apple when I left, their sense of aesthetics. And even before I worked for Apple, I always liked their aesthetics, mm-hmm. clean, no nonsense kind of, there's not a whole lot of, I mean, what you see when in the Apple store is pretty much, what their product is. Mm-hmm. Nice, clean design in every part of their business and stores. So when I left Apple, I always kind of dreamed of a kind of Apple store-ish environment for if I ever went on my own. And mm-hmm. so that's what I created there. I actually wanted a long, narrow space. So I talked to Karen Dahl about her space, and as it was too large, and so we ended up splitting the space in half with another business. Mm-hmm.
How many square feet is your business now?
Oh, I don't even know.
Would you say it's like 800 or 1,000?
Somewhere around there. It's a nice big open space, and kind of long and narrow like the early Apple stores. And mm-hmm. Again, that aesthetic of kind of the all wood tables, the black stools of the early Apple stores. I bought a lot of, actually there's stools from an old Apple store. I put that into the environment, and then just have the products out on display for them to kind of speak on their own. Mm-hmm. I now have my own Genius Bar, which I don't have to share with people. I don't know if Apple come after me for. I don't actually say it's a Genius Bar, but
Yeah, we won't call it
yeah,
that.
yeah. I'll call it the tech. This is where people come in. It's a consultation bench. I guess I would call it, where people can just come in and ask questions. And usually I do, no appointment is necessary if you come during my hours for a consult. You just kind of come in, we talk in a friendly environment, it's kind of face to face. And I don't want people to be put off. A lot of people are scared of technology, so I want to be kind of a space people feel welcome to come in and talk. I feel like I'm an approachable person. And, we just kind of chat about what's going on, whether they have questions, whether they have something that doesn't work quite right. And we either fix the issue there on the spot or answer the question on the spot, or I have a room in the back where we can check in products for me to work on if they need a longer visit.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And you're also offering classes. You spoke about how there are some people that are intimidated by some of the technology or a little bit unsure of how to use things. Can you talk about some of the classes that you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. The classes I offer are pretty much getting started classes, because I think that that's where a lot of people kind of stumble.
Yep, of course.
Everyone needs or deserves a kind of introduction to their products. So I try to give them a good foundation, to then either come in for private tutoring later on if they need more specific answers. Because once that foundation is there, I find that people kind of have their own desires for what they want to learn. So usually after the getting started classes, and I've thrown a photography class because it seems like that's also a point of interest for people.
It's definitely relevant now that everybody has devices.
Yeah, everyone's got these cameras
images
in their pockets, that their phones nowadays. And now they have like thousands and thousands of photos, and they don't know quite what to do with them other than viewing them on the devices. So I've thrown a photo class too. But other than that, I figure if somebody has more specific interests, I do private tutoring before hours or on my days where the shop isn't open. So yeah, I mean, that's, and I always, when I started the business, I knew I wanted 3 tiers. That 3 tiers were really important to me. I first off started with repair, because that leads into another whole conversation about environment and this disposable society we live in. But I always wanted to repair things. As even from a kid, I was the local bike repair man for my neighborhood. So I always like taking things apart, and so and computers have always been a hobby and now a job for me. And so repair was the first tier. Education was always important to me. I was a 1-to-1 instructor at the Apple Store for I think 4 of the 6 years I was in the Apple Store. So I taught a lot of people and empowered a lot of empowered a lot of people to use these tools. And then thirdly, I have the retail side of the business where people may not necessarily be able to afford a brand new Mac, so I offer refurbished Macs at decent prices. For and they could be models anywhere from 20. I usually sell 2013 about 2017 models. So not necessarily the latest and greatest, but nowadays, unless you're somebody that really pushes their computer to the limits, you don't need the absolute newest computer. So I like being able to make an Apple product which a lot of people deem as out of their price range. Something that you can be more affordable, basically.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. What are some of I think people would be surprised to know just how comprehensive your collection of products for sale really is. I know that every time I go in, I always find something that I desire.
Oh, yeah.
So what are some of the things that you have? And
I like to switch it up too. So, if if I have the same old stuff, people may not necessarily come frequently because like, oh, I've seen it, So I try to switch it up a little bit too. But I have laptops of all models that Apple currently offers. I've got desktops, the iMacs, for people to for those people that like a desktop model. And I will say I do sell probably laptops 10 to 1 to. It seems like that's what most people want nowadays. And I've got all sorts of accessories. So if your charger goes out on your laptop, which happens often with people, you can come in and I have nice used Apple chargers for about half of what Apple offers them. And then any kind of cabling, accessories for if you're doing if you need to plug your computer into like an overhead, those things that people usually don't have in their bag. So things from the most common things like power adapters to hooking into a monitor or overhead projectors I have, and I also don't mind loaning things to people if it's something that you may need once for a program you're putting on. You can come in and borrow an adapter. I don't mind. I also have like a adapter kit for if you're traveling overseas. So if you need, a European plug for your power adapter, you can borrow one of those while you're overseas. So, of course, everything to do with iPhones. I have all the accessories, chargers and cases and things for iPads and iPhones. So whatever Apple product you can think of.
It's pretty amazing. It's very comprehensive, and it's very unique to be able to find all of these resources just down the block in a community of under 5,000 people. So very, very
if you're
cool.
a business too, I have, a lot of the businesses have Square or PayPal in their shops. So I try to have, extra bits for that kind of system too, for people that, for all the local businesses that are like, I can't take money because my Square went out. Or they need an iPad for their Square. I mean, it's amazing that you can, create a register to take in money with just an iPad or your iPhone. I mean, you don't have to get those huge devices from NCR or IBM or whatever, to be able to run your small business. So
exactly.
It's really cool.
It's really amazing.
Someone comes in and I don't have something and I think I should, I usually try to get it.
So with all of these amazing services that you offer and totally fantastic customer service, what's your marketing strategy? How are you getting the word out about your business to people in the area?
Well, it's interesting because I actually don't really do any marketing anymore. It's a lot of word of mouth.
We continue to hear that. So
I mean, it's crazy. I haven't been on the banners list for a while. People, just seem to find me, and probably 75% of the time they say that they heard about me from another individual. I hand out my cards frequently. That I have a stack of cards. I often tell people to take a couple with them, and they usually hand them out to their friends. So it's I find with a lot of with what I do, if you're honest and you try to do the best you can, you can't make 100% of people happy, though I strive for 100% satisfaction. People will find you because I think in this day and age, people, like with a mechanic, once you find a good mechanic, you tend to stick with them because you trust them, and they do right by you. So, or you do right by them, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of word of mouth. That's how I get the word out there. I often tell people when they leave, they often say, "Oh, I'm going to tell everyone about you." I say, "Yeah, now you work for me."
Right. That's fantastic. What are some of the things that you've learned in the first couple of years of business that were surprising to you, or were maybe not exactly as you thought they were going to be?
Let's see. So, first couple year business, I don't know. I mean, I guess it surprises me how what surprised me a lot was in this community, people wanted used product rather than new. When I first started at my house, I thought that everyone wanted their products to be repaired with brand new parts. But I found that people like to save money. And so if it's not like I don't put in used batteries, things that are consumables, but like a display for, an Apple laptop, often if it's a new product, it'll be, outrageously expensive. And people have the tendency not to fix someone if the price is too high. And that goes against my grain because we're such a disposable society. So if I price something above what people believe it's worth as a repair, then they won't repair these older objects or older products. And so, when I started, I was like, well, everyone probably wants new, because that was my understanding. That when I worked at Apple, that's what everyone was against refurbished, logic boards or displays being put in their products. But here, everyone's like, yeah, I want to save a penny as long as it's reliable. I don't mind having a used product or used part being put in my laptop or desktop. And so that was one surprising thing. Another surprising thing is I don't know if it's surprising, but everyone is. 99% of people are just so amazingly helpful and friendly in this town. I don't get a lot of irate people. I guess again, another thing, when I worked for Apple as a senior advisor on the phone, I got those escalated calls where the lower levels weren't able to fix the person's problems. So I got a lot of angry people on the phones, and probably another reason why I decided not to keep going with that job.
There's only so much of that a person can take.
You can only take so much of that kind of thing. And so, if you're honest with somebody and you just tell them, hey, that there's not a whole lot we can do with this liquid damaged computer, they understand that. And so, everyone's been pretty understanding, and we just trying to work together to, find a solution that, they're happy with. So, I don't know. I don't know if there's I guess I was, coming into this working, having worked for Apple, I kind of had a plan in my head for a long time about doing this on my own. So I don't know if there was a whole lot of surprising things.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you had a gradual move toward your dream.
Yeah. And
it's a fantastic way to do it.
It's cool. So. My dream, one of the dreams when I worked for Apple was to have my own workroom to fix computers and blast my own music. And,
right.
Not have to worry about my coworkers not liking my taste in music.
Yeah, that's the bonus. So if you were in a room today blasting music, working on something, what would you be blasting?
Probably a lot of 90s music.
Yeah. That's my jam too.
Yeah, I love listening to Pearl Jam or Nirvana.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of Stone Temple Pilots.
All the good stuff.
Yeah. I like a lot of, even older, like the Beatles. I like to listen to the Beatles, and I kind of an eclectic mix.
Yeah.
Some jazz.
Yeah.
When I'm feeling down or it's been a hard day, I like to put on the jazz because that seems it's a little less high energy.
Right.
Kind of relaxing. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Music's amazing.
It is amazing. I love to work to music, no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It makes it really helpful.
Yeah, I remember doing maths homework as a kid, and just listening to music. So, and if you come to my store, I have lots of headphones to try, and you can and I have a interesting mix of music on my iPods, which I do still sell if anyone's interested in those. If anyone knows what an iPod still is nowadays, I still sell iPods.
I had the very first iPod. At the time, my husband and I were actually living in Ohio, and
maybe we were neighbors.
We could have been. The Columbus area.
Oh yeah, we were. I grew up in Ohio, in Springfield, which was about 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
So
crazy. So let's see. There are going to be people that are listening that are getting ready to start their own businesses this year. 2019 is going to be their year. What is one word of advice that you would give to an aspiring entrepreneur who's going to make the leap into their own space or start a business and open that business checking account for the first time? What's the one thing that you would say is the most important?
I would say be excited. I mean, who wants to? I mean, if you're going to start your own business, you want to do something that you love, I would say. I know that's the thing that you love, you may not think there's a market for it, but I mean, look at me. I mean, I who knew that there would be enough Apple products in this area to sustain a business? And again, that's why I started from home. But yeah, I would say be excited, love what you do, because it makes your business all the more rich and successful. So,
yeah. Well, it doesn't get any better than that, I don't think.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. We're all on this path called life, and who knows how? I mean, I hope I'll always be doing something I love, and I hope that I continue to love what I'm doing, with Apple and their products. But who knows? Maybe Apple will take a turn, or not be as popular, or not be around anymore. So you have to be light on your feet too. I think that's another thing that I would put out there for anyone starting a small business. Don't be set in your ways. Be prepared to change direction quickly. Because maybe a few years from now, I might be a Linux person.
Right.
Probably not Windows. So, it's you just on this path we call life. Maybe I hope to be staying in the Viroqua area, but who knows? I might be making another step west at some point. I don't know. It's
right.
I love this area. This area feeds me. Right now, it's the perfect place for me to be, and I hope to stay here. We'll always have a connection here, but again, who knows?
Right. Yep. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. Well, you have been listening to the 54665 podcast, all things entrepreneurs, all things rural economic development, and all things Viroqua. Matthias, thank you so much for coming on today. Oh,
thanks for having me. You guys have been so awesome too. That'd be another thing. Yeah, make sure you check out the chamber here, because they're invaluable as far as resources, and if a starting business has any questions, they're always ready to take your questions. So don't ever feel like you're in on it on your own. The chamber's always there for help, and firsthand experience, they've been amazing.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to be blushing over here pretty soon. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.